Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the British Columbia Museums Association webinar. My name is Lorinda Calvert, and I will be your host for today. Today's webinar topic is Back to School Week, Exploring Digital Field Trips. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that the BCMA offices are located on the traditional lands of the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. We are grateful for the opportunity to live and learn here in mutual respect and appreciation. We also recognize the traditional lands of the many nations across British Columbia where the work of the projects described in this webinar have been carried out. As I mentioned, I'm Lorinda Calvert, your host for today. I am also the BCMA's Programs Coordinator. My pronouns are she, her, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties, please do email our office. Vanessa, our operations manager, is standing by to assist. And we have had some technical difficulties already this morning, so hopefully we don't have any more. You may notice, hopefully, on your screen that there are some closed captionings. We're trying a new platform for our presentation today, so we've got that going on, and it may not be as accurate as we'd like, but we're trying to try it out. So a little bit of housekeeping. Please use the chat feature to ask questions or make comments. If you can't see the chat feature, you may need to hover your mouse over the top or the bottom of your screen and the taskbar should pop up. There'll be time at the end of the presentation reserved for Q&A. So we do ask that you can save your questions for the end and we'll cover them together. This month's presenters are Liz Crocker from the Royal BC Museum, Daniel Gowrlich from the Pacific Museum of Earth, and Marcus Farner of the Port Moody Station Museum. So we're going to start off with Liz today, and I actually need to share the screen for Liz, so please do bear with me. Liz, yep. I'm going to give you remote control, okay?
Great. Thanks, Lorinda.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Yep, there you go. All
right. Thank you. Thanks, Lorinda. Yes, sorry, I'm having issues with my camera and with the controls. So we've got it. Lorinda's going to pass things over to me. So hopefully this will work. So yeah, I'm a learning program developer at the Royal BC Museum. And we have 3 learning program developers in the learning team, but my position is focused on online learning. And that position wasn't created, until 2016, which is when I came on. And so that's when one of the programs I was tasked with developing was our digital learning program, specifically digital field trips. Skipping. It's skipping a slide. How is it skipping a slide? Okay. I can see you in there, Lorinda. Okay, I'm just gonna, okay, they must be in a different order for some reason. All right, so here's one of the first things that we did starting in 2016 is I was going around mobilely throughout the museum with a smartphone. It's not a great picture, but I put this in here so you could see the sign, the awkward sign I'm wearing around my neck, because we soon realized that we needed something to let people know we weren't just wandering around being rude on our phone, we were in a program. So I was using Skype on my phone, and this particular one was for a career program. So I was going to 3 different work areas in the museum and talking with different staff about their jobs and career and education. Okay, yeah, it is flipping around a bit. I'm just going to go back one more time. Oh, there's the one I was looking for. Sorry, everybody. All right, so this was supposed to be my first slide. So originally, though, before I started mobilely wandering around with the smartphone, I was at my desk, usually with a staff member. Here I am with Grant Keddy, Curator of Archaeology, and we are Skyping with a class. We had a number of requests from the Peace region. I think this was early 2017 because we were working in that area. And so we didn't have anything promoting these programs on the website at all yet. These were just specific requests from teachers that were already using Skype usually and wondered if we could do a remote visit with them this way. So one of the next things we started to do was to work with on-site programs that already existed. So because we started getting a number of requests for Indigenous programs, we started with, this is Leslie McGarry. Some of you might recognize her. She's been doing education in Victoria for decades, and she had a very successful program at the museum called the Eagle Program, and she was really keen to try a different audience and was really flexible, and we learned a lot of things together. And so this is just to show that, again, I'm still on a smartphone, and I'm pretty sure we're Skyping, and we didn't change too much. I followed her around. We got a light to help because the galleries were dark, but that's pretty much it. I was following her around, and this is when we started to advertise on the website. So this is probably late 2017. And so then here, just this photo just to show, I've got the camera now in the foreground. You can see it's on a gimbal. And this, we managed to get some more funding for the programs, and they're not very expensive. It was about $350, but it really, really improves the experience for the participants on the other side. It makes it a much steady view for them, and also easier to hold the camera for you, for the educator. And yeah, the other piece of equipment that we got is this tripod. It's actually a selfie stick tripod, and it will pair with the gimbal that we have. So that really makes it great if you want to do a program by yourself, like I'm doing here, and keep the camera nice and steady. And oh gosh, these are all mixed up. I don't know what's going on. So then just last year, we finally got to a point where we got some more equipment here. This is actually Heidi Guest, collections manager for the invertebrates collection, and she's in our distance room. And not everything is shown here, but we're using Zoom here, and she's talking with the group. This is actually photoshopped in it. This wasn't the actual group. This is to let you know that we do programs with seniors groups. But over here is a document camera. And so we've started to do programs where it's an educator in this room just using different media to run these programs. So they're not mobile, they're just in this room using video and images and the document camera to explore objects. Yep, okay. So you could stop sharing my screen, Lorenda, unless I have that control. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And okay, so just I do have a ton of, not a ton, got a bunch of links. I'm not going to share them all now because I want my colleagues to go ahead and do their presentation, but I do have some resources that I can share if there's time after those presentations. But if you could go to the online learning page for the Royal BC Museum for me, Lorenda.
Sorry, my computer's just frozen.
Gosh, what is going on in the universe today?
I know. In the realm of technical issues, we are not thriving.
I mean, the problem was when I was sharing it was just very small view, so.
Why don't you go ahead and give it a try, as I can't even access Zoom at this moment.
Oh, goodness. Okay, I'm going to give it a try. All right. So, and let me know what you can see, Lorenda.
I'm still stuck in a frozen realm, so I'm just going to let y'all carry forward, and I will see what I can sort out.
Okay, so I'm just going to assume you can see at least part of this. Essentially, this is our online learning page for the museum website, and just wanted to show that we have a map here, a Google map. Hopefully you can see some of it. It's up to 2019. We haven't added this year's programs yet, but there's blue dots and green circles, and that shows participants that we've reached. The blue dots are the digital field trips, which is just between us and usually just one classroom or group. And then the green dots are when we've done live stream with partners. So they're expanding out beyond BC, a lot of those ones. And then at the bottom of this online learning page are our different online learning programs, and that's how you get to our digital field trip page. So I've got it open here. I'm hoping you can see some of this. I'm going to scroll around a bit. But on our digital field trip page, you'll see I've got that I actually just said here, and this is where the pandemic comes in, and we're trying to be extra nimble and flexible, and also because our program very much is still in development and we're still trying lots of different things. But I say we can adapt digital field trips for different grade ranges, home learners, or for adult, senior, community group, or post-secondary audiences. So almost covering all the bases there. But then the person can scroll down. There is a request a digital field trip button where they can fill out a form. But this is, below that is where the programs are described. So you can have a look at those on your own, and if you have any questions, you can ask me. But what I wanted to mention today, what's new about this fall, back to school, what we've added is down here under additional offerings. We've got a bridge visit. And so this, we haven't tried this out yet, but we're offering this. This is because we have quite a big audience of on-site visitors that come regularly, teachers from the island and the Lower Mainland that know the museum very well, and they always include a field trip to us. And so we're charging much less for this one. It's $30. The other programs are $75 to $120. And this one is much less because it requires no preparation from the educator, and it's probably just going to be one educator in a gallery, and the teacher is really directing this very short visit, saying, hey, can you go to the Chinatown exhibit, and I want to look at this. And then there can be some back and forth, and there can be some deeper engagement, but it doesn't require any preparation. So there's that one. And then the final thing, and then I will pass it on to the next person, is we're trying this out, these distance learning information sessions for free. We really stole this from the Royal Tyrrell Museum. They're aware that we did. So we just want to see if there'll be any uptake on this one. We haven't had any yet. And it's just a chance for somebody, an educator or a coordinator that's interested in digital learning. They can book this with us, and we can run them through some of the basics in a free session and go over our programs with them. And I will just add that another growing audience for us in distance learning at the museum is seniors. And that is it for me, and I will pass it on to the next person.
Thank you so much, Liz. I am no longer frozen and back. Sorry about that, folks. Ryan has joined me just to back up support in case that happens again. But I'm going to be tossing it over to Marcus. Marcus, thank you so much for joining us from the Port Moody Station Museum. Take it away.
Yeah, perfect. Well, hello all. I'm sitting here in the basement of our collection room. I don't have a presentation for you this time, but I'm going to show a few things. So I'm the curator here at the Port Moody Station Museum. We're a quite small museum. There's sort of 3 permanent staff. Right now, thanks to Young Canada Works, we have luckily 3 students. So that helps us a little bit. So that means everyone does everything here. So when the pandemic came and we went into lockdown, we realized we would lose quite a bit of our sort of revenue stream. We have a lot of programs, sort of on average, we have about 130 programs a year. That's about 2,000, 3,000 students coming in. The majority of them probably are attracted by our World War I trench display in the back of the museum. And then, of course, the train car out front and the museum itself. So when we went into a lockdown, we realized we just can't just not do anything. And we decided quickly to go for Zoom. It was sort of the platform that most people were familiar with. And as I mentioned, we're really, really small, and obviously it's a finance issue as well. So what we decided, when we run a program, it has to be run by just one staff member. So you do everything. You're the cameraman and you run the program as well. Zoom is great, and that's why we really liked it, because it offers us, obviously there's the chat function. You can share your screen, and we talked to quite a few teachers, and they were quite happy that they would initiate the Zoom meeting themselves, because then it gave them more privacy. Like they could meet their student group prior to the meeting or like after our program. And of course, we wouldn't have to deal with the student directly, which was quite nice. The first meeting or program that I ran was quite intimidating. I had over 100 students watching me. So I went out into our little trench and yeah, gave a presentation, and it worked really well. Now, like I have to say, when you do these digital programs, you have to script them way more or tighter than any other digital any regular program. So I mean, that went to the point that I put tape on the duck boards. These are the walking boards in a trench, so that I knew exactly where I had to position myself so that the shot would be really good. What is really, really nice, I mean, it's a little bit more complicated because you have to move the camera equipment along. We don't have a gimbal yet, so we're using a note stand from my daughter from her old music lessons, which is a bit awkward, but you know, once we get a little bit more money, we will update this. But it is really great because you can almost dramatize it, and that's quite important for sort of that trench program. I mean, I don't know if you see, I got an artillery shell there. The kids really like my little trench rat. They get to see trench food, hand grenades, and of course the guide is in uniform. And then it's very easy to just simply add music to it or artillery sounds or something by just simply using my phone and holding it near to the laptop. So that really allows us to make them quite dramatic. And I think that's the strong point of our digital programming there. We are now starting sort of, I would say, the phase 2. We adding like a trench tour, for example, and then showing some of the artifacts. So then I will, after maybe the regular trench tour, I will sit down somewhere in the trench, and then I'll share my screen, and then I'll be able to show original documents, artifacts closer. And this has been very, very successful. I mean, I heard from many students. We took a day in heritage, in a heritage fair, BC Heritage Fair. We had a couple of home learner groups digitally here, and they were really, really blown away, and they thought it was very immersive and felt almost closer. They came, I mean, certainly closer to the artifacts that they would ever come in a real field trip. Now we're trying to branch out. Some of our programs are like really were not designed obviously for digital. So now we're in the process to change this up. We are currently working on a questionnaire for teachers, because what we found, since we're so small, we can be quite flexible in what we offer. So the questionnaire will allow teachers to sort of ask for a bit more of a tailor-made programming. Like, I give you an example. Someone said like they would like a tour through the museum. So we just walked with my iPhone through the museum. And then they wanted to have a more critical look of CPR. There was obviously a lot of racial issues. They hired many sort of African or Caribbean porters, and under horrendous conditions and treatments. So we quickly could adapt this, and then we went to the train, showed a few pictures and talked about this. And that has proven to be quite a good format that we sort of adapted to what the teachers need or want. I'm thinking, what I notice, what is really quite important is when you give it a digital program, that you add another quality to it, and that's sort of that the students get to do something. So our trench program, the big one is Life in the Trenches, but the other one is sort of Communications and Spycraft. Now in that one, I'm actually sending something out for the students, and then they get to write a little encrypted message, and they learn a little bit about encrypting messages and how they were used in the field. And that really gives another quality, and I think that sort of kind of I don't know, makes it a bit more lively for the students. Yeah, and right now we're working. We have I don't know if you can see this, there's a suitcase. We have the suitcase project, we call it, and it's about immigration in Canada. The original group actually made some suitcases. Well, this will not gonna work anymore digitally. So we're seeing how we can turn that into a digital program. And that's where we are at the moment.
Thank you so much, Marcus. I'm going to call to Daniel to come join us. Daniel, do you have a screen that you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's give that a try.
There we go. So I'll show you bits and pieces of our PowerPoint presentation. Initially, we thought, oh, sorry, I should start off with, my name is Daniel Gowerluck. I'm the outreach coordinator for the Pacific Museum of Earth. We are at UBC. We say that we're UBC's oldest museum, but I always say that we're the museum that very few people know about. So if you haven't heard about the PME before, you're not alone. We are a bit unique in the sense that we don't charge admission. So when we had to shut down, we didn't lose that revenue stream. Most of our revenue comes from the department that we were a part of, but also our school programs. So we did lose that revenue stream. One of the unique challenges, though, is that we are in the foyer of one of our research buildings. So we don't really have a timetable for when we're going to be physically reopening. That's why I always make sure to use the gallery as my background, if you can see it behind me.
Daniel, I just want to mention that right now we can see your whole desktop, not just your PowerPoint.
Oh, yes, yeah. So I'll show you the gallery in a bit. So we developed this PowerPoint presentation with help from the BD Biodiversity Museum. I have this personal first slide, which I use just to remind myself. I've trialed this tour with a few different organizations, the BD, the Royal BC Museum, and they gave me some great feedback. One of the first things I heard was to change my mouse size to make it a lot bigger, to remember that I should delay when I'm speaking because there is a bit of a lag with Zoom, and personally just to lock my chairs that I'm not rocking back and forth because that looks really strange on Zoom. But this is the first slide that most of the school groups see. So it's got just tips and tricks, something for people to read while they're waiting for everyone else to get logged in. I will pop out of the full screen though, just so you can see the different slides. Oh, here is the museum gallery. And again, you can see that there are some labs in our building, so we are waiting for the researchers to get back in before we reopen the museum itself. We do include our land acknowledgement and our location. This slide has been really useful. It shows you the whole layout of the museum. About a year or so ago, we got a digital tour of the museum created by UBC Labs. And it really helps just lay out what people are going to see, the 4 main areas of the museum. And that helps break the tour up into 4 main sections. We have a Q&A after each section. That way questions aren't building up for a full 45 minutes or an hour. I'll escape out of this view. We found that holding up the artifacts for myself was a little awkward. So instead we used these larger photographs, which we taken of the collection. We tried to focus on pieces which are in the collection, just to make it a little more unique to this museum rather than any other museums. And we've had a nice big backlog of these photographs that we can draw upon. But where necessary, we'll import photographs from other sections. One great thing is that we have been able to show things that you wouldn't be able to show in real life. So for example, with this piece, this is a gastrolith. It's something that a dinosaur would swallow to help grind up its food within its stomach. But the really cool thing about this gastrolith is it's got these weird oval shapes, and those are actually the fossilized remains of ancient squid. So this is a double fossil. It's both fossils of ancient squid, but also something that a dinosaur swallowed and tumbled around inside its stomach. And so having the PowerPoint actually allows us to do more than what we would have done in real life. I thought I had more than that, but I guess I don't. That's, sorry, kind of short.
That's okay, Daniel.
I will also say this is kind of our second attempt at a virtual tour. We tried to do or break down one of our pre-existing tours into something that students could access on their own and download audio files of someone talking them through a PowerPoint presentation. We found that it didn't work quite as well. It was always better having the actual person here to talk. So if you have tried something and it's failed miserably, don't worry, you're in good company.
Really good advice. Thank you. I'm just going to take over the screen so I can throw my my question slides up. Hopefully that works despite my tech issues today. Excellent. So for our folks who are joining us and still able to hang on through these tech issues, if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. If you can't find the chat, but you do find the Q&A, you can pop them there as well, and I'll be reading them out to our participants. Thank you so much, Marcus, Liz, and Daniel for joining us. Really appreciate you sharing what you've been doing and the lessons you've been learning. While we wait for those chat and Q&A to come in, I'd love to just get us started with what's your best advice for any organizations out there who are thinking about starting digital field trips?
I could attempt this one, Lorinda.
Sure.
Okay, see, I was just trying to get my camera going again. I'm just gonna try a different, again, I'm frozen on the screen. Okay. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, and for a second we saw you.
Oh, you did? Let me try.
There you are.
But am I moving?
Yes.
No. Oh, okay. Maybe it's just frozen on my screen. I don't know what's going on. Okay. One of the things I wanted to share, and I can just put it in the chat window, is an organization called CILC. It stands for Center for Integrated Learning and Collaboration, and they're out of the States, but they have been terrifically just a great resource. And teachers that are already in the know about digital programming know about CILC. So I've had, requests come through from teachers that see our programs advertised on CILC, and they're even British Columbia teachers, but they didn't go to our website first. They went to CILC because they knew about it. And it's also equally it's been so valuable to be a member. The startup membership is, I think it's $200 US, and then it can build from there, obviously. But you can belong to their educator groups, and there's a monthly free meeting with the other educators that are on CILC, and it's where I learned so much. And you can not just networking is great, but you can just ask anything. You can see people there's really some folks on there that have been doing this for far longer than I have, and just have really great technical assistance, and it's just so valuable. And then they also have an annual content providers gathering that is free all day long. It's usually in June, and it's also a really rich learning experience for an educator if you're in this kind of work. So that's what I would say, and I'll pop the link in the chat.
Thank you so much.
I can come in. I see there's what age groups and microphones or something. I can quickly sort of speak to it. So we really done our groups mainly for high school students so far. Some of the home learner groups, there were younger kids involved, but really we got like sort of for smaller, like I don't know, not kindergarten, like smaller groups, like they preschool, and that really, we haven't found sort of a digital format for them yet, because it's obviously very interactive. But so far, all our digital programs were for high schools. I use actually just, like, I don't know if you have some wireless headphones or something, that worked really well. We also do have some dedicated wireless microphones, which you can put into your lapel, that works really well. The question, including multiple classrooms, yes, we certainly did this when I had those 100 and something kids in that one classroom. That was not from a different school, but different classrooms, definitely from this. That's why I had the teachers help and organize it to bring all the kids in and help with the chat on all their questions.
Thank you so much, Marcus. Yeah, we do have some questions, Daniel and Liz, that are coming up in the chat, such as from the Kelowna Museums, what is the age group that you are targeting for your your field trips. Daniel, Liz, did you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I will say that we'd aimed for an older age group, the youngest being grade 5 or 6. But the first time we actually ran this program, we had a lot of really young kids. It was a multi-age group, and they were all kids who were in their homes, so not in a classroom. But we gave it to them for free, so they were, there was less pressure if it bombed, and they understood that they were being our guinea pigs. But they were very, very, very appreciative, and now we've actually shifted the age group down a little bit. I think because kids are doing so much Zoom right now, this year they're conditioned to be a little more patient with it. So yeah, you'd be surprised how wide your age group range can be.
Yeah, and I'll just add, we're really not targeting a specific group right now. That's partly because of the pandemic. We're really trying to see if there's an audience for these kinds of programs in all different age ranges. But in the past, most of our bookings have been from kindergarten to grade 5, I would say. It's been the most popular. And increasingly, like I said, seniors groups are interested in these programs. And I could quickly answer that mic question I see there. Yeah, we've tried a couple different things, but what we're currently using, we're either not miking, or we're sharing a pair of AirPods. So with the pandemic, that requires being extra careful and cleaning them. But essentially, it's one of the few solutions we can find that works with the smartphone when it's in the gimbal, so that 2 people at a time can be mic'd, because we want the educator on the camera phone to be able to hear what's going on in the classroom, and to have the presenter in front of the camera also here, to have them both mic'd. So you can do that if you use one pair of AirPods and split them up, and one has one in their ear and the other has the other. And I think it's whoever puts it in last is mic'd stronger than the other one. Anyway, that's what we're doing right now for miking inside in the galleries.
Thank you. Some more questions coming in. If anyone's willing to share, how many requests do you already have for this coming fall?
We haven't had any just yet, although we have been invited into some different, I guess, festivals. So there's Science Literacy Week that we're a part of, and we're running our programs for that. We also got invited for the first time into the Federal Culture Days. Even though we're not really a cultural organization, we're more natural history. But I think that these festivals they're eager for online content, and so they're excited to include people who they wouldn't include normally. And we're excited because it gives us access to different markets. We can reach outside of BC if we want. So I would definitely recommend jumping on as many of these bandwagons as you can. Some of them overlap, which is convenient, so you can market your programs on multiple websites.
We have about 2 coming up this October. So there might be some more, but that's sort of definitely booked. And they booked saying, like, if suddenly the pandemic will go away, we can come in live into your museum. And I said, yeah, sure. But so yeah, they will be digital programs. Yeah.
And I'll add, we did our first one on Monday, actually, with the Victoria High School. And we have about, I don't have it in front of me, but we have about 12 to 15 requests in right now for the rest of the fall. So that's pretty good. Last year and the September before, we did not have that many starting out in the fall. So I'm already seeing an increase in the programs. And I also just popped in 2 links in the chat as well for Streamable Learning and Live Living Network. They're both the same company. They're both Streamable Learning, but Streamable Learning, they both work on a Netflix kind of model. So they have people that subscribe, and so for Streamable Learning, it's school districts subscribe, and then once they're subscribed, they have access to the entire Streamable Learning calendar. And so that's for their school programs. Live Living Network is for all the seniors centers that they're and residences that they are connected to. This is an American organization. They had tried to start something called Live Learning Canada with quite a few Canadian content providers. Terrell was there, and us, and Royal Botanical Gardens, and some others. But now they're just gone back to it's all streamable learning. The reason I'm saying this in a long-winded way is they pay content providers. So what we try to do is book at least one per month live stream with them. So you're basically doing your regular program, but they handle everything. You don't have to do anything. They do all the registration with their people, with the participants, and then you just go and do your regular program. They work the Zoom room, they work it all. So it's nice and easy, and then they pay you for each program. So, and you can also use a portion of your program to promote your program. So usually at the end I'll go, and if you want to book a digital field trip with just your class and an educator here at the museum, please contact me, that kind of thing. So we're doing that, and we're also doing live streams with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. They also have a really wide audience. They don't pay us, but they have a really wide audience, and it's just been a great way to just get the word out about our programs.
Thank you. We have a question here from Michelle. Thank you. She's thanking everyone for sharing. Have you found the most educators have access to proper tech equipment / the knowledge to work it? And how much time do you decide to do tech tests before you run a program? I feel like this also folds into the following question, which is right beneath it, which is what kind of technology do you request the teachers have in place on their end, and what kind of things do they watch on, etc. So I guess the general question here is, what kind of technology are you asking these schools and teachers to have?
Do you want me to answer that? I can start. We on our webpage for digital field trips, there's just a couple lines about all you need is a computer with a camera and a screen and speakers. So we basically want to make sure that they have it set up in their classroom or the senior's home, that they can pair their computer with a speaker so everybody can hear, and with a screen. That's basically it. We do a connection tech test, we call them connection tests really, with every single person we do a program with. Every time. It's just worth it. And that can take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. And I've only had it one time happen where we couldn't fix what the issues were. Sometimes with schools, it's mostly been okay, but if the teacher, usually the teachers, no, there's people in the schools that can help them. If it's a school that doesn't have their own support person, and there's one for the district. So if it's a good idea to do those tech tests several days before the program, in case that they're going to need to get someone in from the district to come help and troubleshoot for them. Yeah, so I'll stop there.
Yeah, we also just asked them to have a computer, and for generally the schools, we do it like maybe 10-15 minutes beforehand. With some of my home learners groups, I did a test 1 or 2 days before the actual meeting, and then asked them to join me a little bit earlier again on that day to see if it still works. And that has actually been quite successful. It worked really quite well.
Thank you. Daniel, anything to add?
No, we also schedule about 15 minutes for a tech test, although I've never needed more than 5 minutes.
Thank you. Another question we have here, for virtual programs and tours, have Zoom presentations been done for multiple classrooms? And could it be possible to get multiple schools in one sitting as well? I know Marcus already answered that. Daniel, Liz, any thoughts?
Yeah, we're expecting that to be a situation at some point over this strange school year. Yeah, it can definitely be done. We don't recommend, for our digital field trips, we have a little guideline on one of the pages that just says we prefer it's just one class, but sometimes it's a teacher that, a team that they teach together, or it's a librarian that has a couple classes in the library at the same time. So we'll say maximum to 50. It just gets unmanageable if there's more than 50, usually students in the room with sound and asking questions and that kind of thing. So that's when they're all together in one room. But yeah, I don't have much experience doing the multiple classrooms. It's possible and planning to do it soon.
Thank you. Another question we have here. Have you developed lesson plans or guides to support teachers who are interested in online programs?
No, we usually, I mean, we haven't, well, we have guidelines for ourselves and our scripts or something, but what we do is we just sort of have a short meeting or like a talk with the teachers beforehand and talk them through and obviously, you know, like see what they're, you know, if they have any subject they would particularly be talking about, especially with the trench tours. There might be some people who want to more talk about, you know, some of the psychological issues or, you know, the life in the trenches, but there's nothing we actually send out.
We're increasingly asked for that. We don't have anything specifically prepared for the digital field trips, but we a lot of what we give for pre and post visit support for teachers is already on our learning portal. One of the, I think the things that have really worked well at the Royal BC Museum is we've got online, 3 focuses: online, on-site, and outreach. And so we've been developing programs, outreach kits and on-site programs and learning portal content, which is our a website, a learning website, all together so they're integrated so they can support each other. So what I'll usually do is send out links for content that's on the portal. And there are some lesson plans in there and also some activity suggestions. So that's how we handle it.
We've been developing some downloadable games that kind of reinforce what they'll be learning in our tour. It's something that teachers have been asking for a long time, but we just haven't had the time or the resources to develop them. So this has actually been a good chance for us to develop something which we can even use after COVID. Hopefully.
Awesome, thank you. Another question here we have from Tammy. They're getting lots of requests for their walking tours. Any tips on how to do those digitally? They've had challenges transferring from cell phones to video editing software. Any advice or tips?
We've started now our first digital walking tours, and we're using my Google Maps. And that allows you to set up a couple of waypoints, put pictures in, put text in. You can link audio or videos as well. And then people who want to walk that do the tour just kind of download it onto their phone. I can't really say that I have much experience with it. I'm not really a big fan of my Google Maps, but we explored some other options of walking tours and they seem to be quite pricey. So we have a big virtual event coming up starting next week. And part of this will be sort of promoting the virtual tours, walking tours. So we'll see how that will work out.
I guess there's lots of ways to do a digital walking tour. The first thing I thought of was actually a live program, but I see what you're talking about now. We actually have a 360 camera that we got for the online learning program. So we're starting to take 360 images of our galleries, for example, and video, and we're now working on making those into short clips that can go onto the website so people can do their own sort of virtual tours of the galleries. What I've been doing since pandemic, on our learning team, we've started this free webinar series, the at-home series, and my program is RBCM Outside. So I've been doing live, if this is what you're talking about, Tammy, I don't think so though, but I've been doing live, almost walking tours outside using Zoom on the smartphone. And the big thing that I would just say is that have a good data plan, because usually we have to do these programs off Wi-Fi, and I'm just using data on the phone to do them. But they've been working.
I'd really wanted to do a live walking tour of our gallery when this started, and I tried a few times. That's one of the tours that kind of fell apart on us just because of our technology and understanding of technology. But I was advised by some of our teaching staff and that if we took photographs of the wider picture and then zoomed in on the actual specimen that we wanted to show, it gave a much more seamless experience. It also gave me a lot more flexibility as to where I could conduct this tour from. So I'm actually able to conduct a live, almost walking tour from my living room, which is where I am right now.
Thank you. We have a question from the Kelowna Museum. They apologize in case we covered this during the presentation, but are you folks charging for the programs? And if so, how much? And as well, how long are the programs?
Our trench program, for example, is 75 minutes, and we charge $5 per child. When we had these big classrooms, like as I said, 100 or something, we just charged a general fee. It was actually, we charged them $150, but they were so happy that they actually gave us $300, which was, yeah, really quite nice. Yeah.
We're charging $75 for a 30-minute gallery tour, virtual gallery tour with an educator, $120 for a 45-minute digital field trip program, which has pre and post visit support. And then we have this bridge visit that we are trying out this fall that requires no preparation on the educator. It's a teacher will just direct where they want them to go in the gallery, and that's 20 to 30 minutes, and it's $30.
We've been doing a lot of free programs just to get the word out there that we're doing it and to raise awareness about the museum. But when we do charge, it'll be $30 for a 1-hour program. Or I should say a 1-hour program including 15 minutes of tech time, 15 minutes of Q&A.
Thank you. Another question here, have there been ways to integrate kinesthetic activities to encourage active participation? What an interesting question.
Can I jump in on here? Yes, definitely. And that is something that that's sort of that we're trying to take our programs to the next level with that this year. We started that but kind of tried to work that in a bit more last year. So, and that was feedback we were getting from teachers with the K-3 programs, and that's partly why our times are so short, is because for the most part you're sitting in front of a screen, though we try to break it up and make it as active as possible. But for the little ones, the K-3 programs, we always include something physical that the kids are doing with us. The educator will demonstrate it. Like for example, in Leslie's program, Animals in the Season, she brings them through a repetition of how to make salmon cakes, pressing the berries with their hands. Sorry, you can't see me, and you pat down the berries and picking the berries. And so they're doing that movement with her and that kind of thing. And we've done stretches before. And then for the older students, I've just working on this program now, I think like an archaeologist, that's for secondary students. And so this is the first program that we've done where we're incorporating active time for the students within the program, that they are going away from me on the screen, and I send them off and I'll give them something to do either in partners or in a small group. And I've arranged that with the teacher before, like I would like you to have groups of 4, that kind of thing, or partners. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Here's a question. I want you to talk to your partner about it. And I'm going to come back to you in 5 minutes. And it's so strange. I mean, we do this in-person programs all the time, but it's so strange to sit there on the screen and you think you have to be doing something all the time, but it's really actually way more beneficial and active if they're doing something. And it's really been, I really think it's increased the richness of the program, because they just get into these great conversations, and then we have to interrupt them, and then we bring it back, and then it's back on me. And so the other thing that we do in those programs is to have different elements going on. And this is one of the things I've learned from the CILC group in the States, and just watching and learning from all these people that have been doing it for a long time, is really try to have lots of different elements in your program. So there's time with me on camera, but then there's time where I'm showing a video or an image, or I'm showing an actual artifact under our document camera, or we're doing movement, or they're doing something as a group or in a pair in their classroom. So just always trying to keep that dynamic with lots of different things going on.
Anyone else want to jump in?
we might be experimenting. We used to have a program that involves some meditation exercises. So we're thinking of maybe turning that into a digital one, but like in and itself of our programs, there's no as such activity. There will be questions. I mean, that's what we do. So there's interactivity, and what I said, where the kids have to, you know, encrypt the message, so they are interactive and there will be asked question, but not really any physical activities.
I was going to say the same thing. We don't have many movement activities in our regular programs, although I do like the idea of incorporating them into our virtual programs. Aside from that, we just try to encourage multiple chances for Q&As, just that people don't forget them, but also so that they feel engaged.
Thank you. We have oh, sorry, go ahead, Liz.
No, I was just going to say, I see Joanna has said that they use in one of their programs the poll to have the participants interact and fill out the poll that Zoom has, and we do that as well, and that's been good as well, to at least have some interaction digitally that way.
Yes, I was just going to say, Joanna has commented in the chat saying that they use a scavenger hunt at home to make the participants move around and fill out the poll. So like mine, I was just going to say that, which is a wonderful suggestion and wonderful idea. We're getting close to 1 o'clock here, so I just wanted to put it out there for Marcus, Daniel, Liz, if you have any last thoughts or pieces of advice for our participants here today before we wrap it up.
One thing we said, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No,
go ahead.
One thing what we have as well, we have a now monthly book club in the evening, and it used to be every 2 weeks. And that's sort of a free program that people can join who is ever interested. I usually set the topic from the next class. And that's been nice just to get people attracted to the museum and see that we're sort of offering virtual programs. And that comes from, you know, I've been in the jail in the museum, I've been in our train car, I've been in the trench. So I've been in the most haunted spot in the museum, and that's been quite popular, and that's free. So that's a nice thing to just draw in people and just sort of generate some interest.
I could just add, I just put the link in the chat for Connected North if you're not aware of them. And if you have Indigenous programs or career type programs or experts on your staff, Connected North is funded by Cisco. And they're out of Ontario. Most of their schools are in Nunavut, but they have some in Northern Ontario. They have one in BC. And so what they'll do is they kind of work as a liaison between those schools and you and content providers, and they'll pay for your programs on behalf of a school. And so they are interested in lots of career type programming as well as Indigenous content. So they are always looking for new content providers. So I just put that there as a resource.
I just want to say this was a lot of fun today. Thanks for inviting me to participate, Lorenda and the BCMA and everyone who came out. If you have any questions about the PME or anything that we're doing, feel free to let me know. Most of the emails go straight to me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That actually brings me to my thank you section. So thank you again, Liz, Danielle, Marcus, for joining us. This was wonderful to hear about what you've got going on and the lessons you've learned. I also want to extend a thank you to all the participants who's joined us today to hear about these digital programs and to support our community as we move forward in these weird and unprecedented times. I always love to know what it is that you're looking for and how the BCMA can support you. So please do not hesitate to reach out. You can email me at programs@museumsassn.bc.ca. If you're looking for more resources on digital field trips or how to get started, please don't hesitate. I'm happy to connect you with resources. Do consider joining us in October. We have our BCMA virtual conference coming up. It is free. Registration is open already. You can find that on our website. We've got a webinar on Wednesday, October 14th, where we are looking at online resources and ensuring that we are making sure that those resources live on. And then measuring what matters, tracking data and measuring impact at your Cultural Heritage Institute on October 21st. There will be an email coming into your inboxes soon with a link to the recording of this webinar, as well as a survey. Filling out that survey provides us with the feedback that guides our future webinars, so please do consider filling it out. I'll be linking some of those links that Liz shared with us in that email, and if Daniel, Marcus, and Liz would like, I can also include your contact information. You can just get in touch with me. I see a thumbs up from Daniel, excellent. And please consider joining the BCMA for October and 2020 and beyond by becoming a member. Becoming a member provides funding opportunities, webinar participation, reduced registration fees for when we can have an in-person annual conference again, regional workshops and other special events, and access to professional development resources like our Roundup magazine, e-newsletters, and so much more. Thank you again so much to Marcus, Daniel, and Liz for joining us, and for all of our participants for joining us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon and that it is not that wet out wherever you are.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miranda. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.